happy Friday as well as Veterans Day here in the United States. You're watching another episode of Mavens of Manufacturing, and this week's episode is sponsored by Factory Fix, who is a manufacturing talent platform that combines the power of talent network featuring over 400,000 skilled manufacturing pros and a recruiting platform built specifically for the manufacturing industry. So if you're having a hard time finding that skilled talent, be sure to contact them and they should be able to help you out. This morning I have Celeste Mergens. How are you, Celeste? It's so nice to see you.
So good to see you.
I'm glad that you can make it today. I know the last time we tried getting together, we had some technical difficulties and we had to cancel the episode, but I'm really excited to hear your story because you created something phenomenal that's helping women all over the world that I think is really important. But first, I just want to get a brief background about who you are and how you got involved with engineering mostly, because you do mostly engineering stuff. So can you give us your backstory?
Yes, I have always loved math and science. Like that is my jam. That and crayons from the beginning. So creativity and building things and understanding things. And my first thing that I really wanted to be was a ham radio operator because I read about that. I am K7RXK in case anyone wants to know. and I just have always loved doing things. So when other girls were babysitting to raise money when they were 14, I was roofing houses just because that was interesting to me and I could make more money. And it went on to be many, many interests. My first degree pursued was electrical engineering. Life did a U-turn on me and I didn't get to complete that, but my life has been filled with the principles of it. And it has been such a benefit to have the mindset of if then.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's cool that you mentioned roofing. So I follow TikTok, like I'm on there and trying to better my skills on that platform. I don't know how some of the people do some of the things that they do, but there's actually a female all roofing company that shares their TikTok videos of their projects, and it's showing them like these really high houses and stuff. So I've thought of that right away when you mentioned your roofing experience. And I just think it's cool that more women are getting comfortable with coming into the trades and doing things that we traditionally wouldn't have done. And yeah, I think some amazing things are happening. But the next one that I wanted to ask you is you started this organization called Days for Girls.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to get a better understanding of how that concept came to life and, you know, what was your main inspiration for developing that nonprofit and get into what you helped design for girls all over the world.
It was a surprise. Do you know how life does that? You're going this direction and all of a sudden you're going this direction. I have been helping with sustainable development solutions in Kenya. I come every 6 months with another suite of selection for the community to choose from. And it would be everything from solar cooking stoves to solar driven well pumps to agricultural dripping systems. And it was interesting to see what they would choose and what they wouldn't and why. And then one day on my way, I would stop at an orphanage and help. And post-election violence happened in Kenya, and now 500,000 people were displaced, and that orphanage needed a whole lot more help. And one day I got a call that they were completely out of all the resources they needed. And then I learned that they had all along been sitting on pieces of cardboard during menstruation for days, sitting there, no access to education, no way to leave, no way to care for themselves. Even if they needed food, someone had to bring it to them. And I'm, okay, that does not work. How do you even do that? Yeah. And the answer, my first solution was to fundraise for disposable single-use products, but I knew even if we were able to keep doing that for 500 girls, what happens the next month? What happens if they need food? They're going to use it for food, and they should. So how do you create a product that could be sustainable? And so we created the first washable Days for Girls pads, and I wish I could say it was a good design because it was my design, but it wasn't. It was a terrible design. but I knew to listen and I knew to ask questions. And from the very beginning, we taught them what a period is and helped break that stigma and reminded them their bodies are amazing and that they are amazing, that their strength of every day matters. And that's when they explained to us that they were being exploited in exchange for a single disposable pad. And that was the moment Days for Girls was born. Even if the 10 girls who told me that out of 500 girls were all that we helped, it would matter that they didn't have to be exploited anymore for this. And I didn't realize it's a global issue to struggle for access to menstrual care and have the dignity and health and wellness of your days. But it turns out it is. Today, Days for Girls has reached 2.6 million women and girls in 145 countries, communities all over the world, shifting from stigma and shame and the consequences for that, which are huge, to having what they need and having the dignity and health back and their days back. And that's why it's called Days for Girls. Who would have guessed something so apparently simple and easily overlooked could be so integral to further equity, for protecting them from violence? I am so grateful that I have a mindset that looks for solutions that works and respects user-centered design, and that I listen, because Days for Girls would not have become the movement it is if we hadn't valued those we serve first.
Yeah, that's so amazing. So, what was the age range of the girls that you were helping with? And then, were you having conversations with them as well? Like, were they, I don't want to say like they're your beta group because that doesn't really humanize them, but were they involved in the design process? Like, what sort of feedback were you getting with that first design? Because you said it wasn't so great at all.
Well, it's hard there, especially this was 2008 and we didn't have smartphones everywhere. So even that first email back happened from a cyber cafe on the other end, right? And so it wasn't as easy, but I kept just asking because I wasn't in Kenya when I returned, what's the feedback? How are they doing? Which, if you have a manufacturing and engineering mindset, you care about that. It isn't just drop the solution and run. You care about the innovation process. And so I got back the first one that was just cracked me up is the first design had ribbons to hold it had a moisture barrier, then ribbons to hold an absorbent barrier, then snaps to hold it in place over underclothing. And they explained that when they walked, the pad would move forward and they would look like a man. Like pockets. We're going to need pockets to hold the product in place, right? And they explained that because at the time it was white, because every pad I'd ever seen was white, so why would you do it any other way? They explained that they were having to hide it under their mattresses, and of course that isn't hygienic. It doesn't have the sun, it won't dry completely. And so how do you make a pad not look like a pad, and how do you make it work for them, overcoming these taboos? And other barriers we had to overcome is, how do you wash with very little water? How do you have them dry quickly? And how do you make them, so you ready? 30 iterations later, we have in the process gained 2 patents for this product. It is genius because of listening to the feedback of those we serve. So this is how you make a pad not look like a pad. They come in all different colors. This one just has cute bicycles on it, and it snaps into this beautiful little pod. And then ta-da! Here's how you make a absorbent liner not look like a liner and overcome taboo and wash with little water and dry quickly. Ready? Ta-da! So it looks like a tissue. It's bright. It hides stains. And it dries quickly because of the surface area and rinses quickly because of the surface area. And they can layer it to adjust to their flow. So socially, physically, culturally relevant. And that's the genius of caring about and prioritizing user feedback. And that's the genius of being committed to being truly a useful design. And today, there are enterprises of Days for Girls that make these. and bring them directly to their community all over the world, as well as a network of volunteers from all over the globe that participate, getting them to refugees and places where it's more difficult to get them. And that's how we've reached 2.6 million and counting.
That is so cool. Like, I really like the design too of it. So my question is, you said that they had to hide them under their mattress when they were white, and that's a really good point. Like, every pad that I've used has been white, or there's like a different color underneath. But why were they hiding them? Did they get in trouble if they had them, or?
It's more about, okay, so in a lot of places, it's taboo to be around anything menstrual related. And think about even where we live, people would rather talk about,
Yeah.
forgive me, but diarrhea than menstruation, right? It's a thing that we're overcoming. And why? Because it connects us all. Everyone happened because of periods, right? So it literally biologically connects us all. So overcoming that and being free about talking about it is a huge leap forward by itself. For them, they were experiencing that this white pad showed a stain, and they were ashamed to have that stain. But raise your hand if you would want to hang a pad outside that had a stain on, menstrual stain on it. But the taboo they face is far greater. In places like Western Nepal, there's a practice called chapati, that you are untouchable when you're on your period. You can't even be in your home during your period. You're in a platform or in a cave or in a shed made directly for this, or even under the crawl space of the house. You can't be on the pathway to the house. You're literally out with the oxen in Nepal. So exposure, insects, snake bites, and trying to stay warm, sometimes dying of asphyxiation. And it's not because they're not loved. It's because they literally believe they're protecting their family from being harmed because of this taboo, untouchable thing that their body is doing. Everything that we relate to blood is injury and illness. So of course, it would be easy to believe that you could cause harm. And it's so wonderful to see that the second part of Days for Girls components, which is so vital, the education, that's clear and interactive and conversational and powerful, because we teach them to own it. And it completely shifts how they feel and their confidence in relating to this part of their life. And having their days back includes not just the pad, but the education and community conversations. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
Something this simple wasn't happening. And today it's a global movement, not just Days for Girls, but many, many orgs. It's fabulous.
That's so amazing, and it helps them not be ashamed of it either. I mean, even here, just real quick, we have Hank Proom. He says, "Hey, Meaghan, can't stay as I'm on site in Iowa. Just popped in to say hello. Hello, Hank." He brings his daughters every Friday when he can, when he's not working, to watch Maven. So I'm glad he was able to pop in. But it really is kind of silly. Like, I remember growing up, and it was something I never wanted to go through because everybody was just so disgusted by it or scared of it. And I remember one of my guy friends, he made this comment like, anything that can bleed for several days in a row and not die is not human. Like, he just kind of like related it to some sort of like monster. And I like sat there and I thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, you got a point. Like, who wants to deal with that? So I think it's great. Yeah, I think it's great that you're able to provide that for them and give them their integrity back, because I feel like being here in the United States, a lot of us have easy access to simple things like pads or feminine products, and we just don't think how anywhere else is. And when I first talked to you, I was just completely in awe that it didn't exist everywhere. Like, there was issues like this in the world. The other thing that I'm really grateful for, you're like a good example of why women need to be in this space more, because things like feminine products, we understand it a lot better, and we're more comfortable with designing something like that. So you brought up several questions that you asked yourself during the design process. So in terms of like materials and how you created this product, what types of companies were you looking to partner with to make this successful? Because I feel like they would need to have that same passion towards this mission. So how did you go about looking for those types of companies to partner with?
Oh, that's so astute. You're so right. We talked with people directly about the mission and about what we were doing, and we had some partnerships that weren't as successful as the ones we have today. It takes logistical partners, it takes shipping partners, it takes, we have manufacturing partners for the materials, and try to be as local as possible when resourcing them all around the world. That is a Tetris level 12 endeavor. We found that we just kind of said next if they didn't get it. I remember once a partner, not a manufacturing partner, but a potential funding partner. May I just say that this guy actually said this? So I am a woman that has a bit of chops when it comes to a lot of what we do, right? But he didn't know that. And I'm also a mom of 6 and a foster mom and a foreign exchange student mom. And he came into our first office and he was looking around. We had students coming in volunteering. We had people answering the phones. The phones were ringing off the hook. And he walks in and we had a map with pins for everywhere in the world we were reaching. And he was watching all this and he goes, how are you doing this? How are you reaching all over the world and having this much success? And you're just a bunch of ragtag housewives. I didn't call him back.
That's so rude.
Isn't it? And so untrue. And I think so. We look for partners that weren't about the volume, but were about the mission and the power of what we could accomplish together, who were looking for a win-win. And our partners are amazing. They come all in. And it is important to have allies that are with you, not just about the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you experiencing any sort of like challenges with distribution or production with all of these supply things going on? And I know, like, especially within the United States, we got a lot going on here. Are you has that interrupted your process at all, or are you able to continue distributing and producing without getting?
Today we have a team that specializes in that, right? So I'm not in that day to day. It is actually, and because we recognize, because of the kind of volume we do, we had purchased an enormous quantity of materials ahead of time, thank goodness.
Gosh.
However, COVID really did make all of these things more difficult for all of us, as you know, and it has made sourcing more difficult and especially shipping more difficult. So there have been true barriers that have happened, but thankfully we have a phenomenal team that was thinking strategically and had planned ahead of time. Honestly, to save money, we buy in bulk so that the power of our combined purchases can help us make the cost of the product as cost effective as possible and reach even more.
I think another interesting thing to touch on, because a lot of people have forgotten about this area within engineering and manufacturing, is the textile portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to, in the United States, we used to manufacture different types of textiles, and there's not very many companies around that specialize in that. So when you were looking for that type of fabric and that type of material, how did you go about partnering with that manufacturer? Because I know that there's not a lot here in the United States. I wanted to say the last article I read, they said there was 2, but I'm hoping there's more. But
Yeah.
there seems to be more textile companies overseas than here in the United States.
Mm-hmm. And it's changing all the time, right?
Yeah.
We actually found them by using the power of our network. So Dave's for Girls has had 70,000 plus volunteers all over the globe. And just like you can use your staff in connecting and asking, just ask, do you know anyone? We Googled, we connected, and we would work with a partner and they would suggest someone else. We were really, really fortunate in that a partner who does large scale quilting said, please talk to this group. There would be a potential, and the owner of the actual manufacturing company met with us and really loves Days for Girls. And so we've been really fortunate for our polyurethane laminate product, which is the moisture barrier that's in the what we call the shield because it protects, that holds the absorbent liner. Uh, that has been from diverse sources, depending where in the world, and that at one point was manufactured here in the United States. So the answer is lots of different things happen for us to find them, and I think the answer is one of the principles of Days for Girls is to be tenaciously flexible,
Yeah.
which means you have to have structure, but you also need to be able to understand the data, see what changes are happening, see where we need to be flexible, and be able to change our design and resources based on what is best for the network and the product as a whole.
Now, is this product something that is getting sold in the United States as well too, or are you strictly just focused on donating it to the countries that absolutely need it? And then how long is the life cycle of one pad? Because eventually it's probably going to get used and used and used, and they're going to have to replace it. So how long is one pad good for?
Thank you for that one. You're right. The first thing is we have tried several times doing the market research for selling the pads here in the United States. There is demand for washable pads. Washable pads have a lot of advantages. There's menstrual cups, there's washable pads, there's disposable single-use products of multiple kinds, and there is a market for them. However, for us, the profit margin and the effort to run that manufacturing, and unfortunately, the second time we came to it, it was, of course, all this manufacturing global constraints. So we were stuck in the middle of that. So we don't yet have a product for sale here in the United States.
Okay.
And we do have products for the rest of the world. It's a hybrid model. We do have some that are given away, and those are volunteer made, and those are areas that have not yet acquired an enterprise model within their district or part of the world. So for instance, in Kenya, we have over 20 Days for Girls enterprises. These are places where the product is manufactured locally, and they're in many parts of the world, but they're manufactured locally. The education from what we call our ambassadors of health is given locally, and always these two things come together. By being manufactured locally, they are providing jobs, ensuring that those who want to be ambassadors for menstrual equity in their area and help break the taboo have a way to do it and not have to go without to do it, have a way to support them in that. And it's truly rewarding. It is harder to do it that way, and it's truly rewarding to hear their responses. I was talking with a woman in northern Uganda who said, when I said, "How is it going for you? How's it affected your life?" She said, it was interesting the order she said it in. She said, "People know who I am. They listen to me. My children eat every day and they can go to school." And I was interested in the first thing she said wasn't actually my children can go to school and we eat every day. It wasn't we eat every day. It wasn't my children go to school. It was people know who I am and listen to me. So
Yeah.
knowing that you're valued, that you have contribution to your community is as important in the model as the direct access. When COVID happened, we couldn't get product there, right? But because they had it there, they were able to continue, double down on what they were doing, be a strong voice and advocate for health in general. And truly an example of why ownership, local ownership and manufacturing is for us a thing we value.
That's such a great story because it does show the importance of having a strong manufacturing foundation is really great for economic stability and not like community security as well too. So you're bringing in people, it's putting money back into the economy, and you're able to keep feeding your family and growing together as one. So that's awesome. Um,
Absolutely.
in terms of like what's next for Days for Girls, are you making other products like a menstrual cup or like tampons, or are you just sticking with the pad product?
The team is talking about that and has ongoing innovation tests all the time. we had a product at one point that I was so excited about. It was a thinner, like all-in-one piece that was just really flexible, and we were really excited about it. But then the user feedback wasn't what we hoped it would be. So it's like next. So they've got a lot of innovations they're working on, but we are serious about getting the feedback necessary in the pilots before we make any kinds of decisions like that. So the team is working on lots of innovations for manufacturing. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you brought up the educational portion quite a few times. So can you provide some details on what that actually looks like? Is it just one day of education? Is it actually like a course that lasts for several weeks? Like, how does that portion of Days for Girls look like?
It's both. Generally, it can be advocacy for communities, just talking about awareness of why it matters to learn about it and talk about it. The most highly given is a 2-hour discussion, and it has within it what periods are, how babies happen, how to be safe and not get infection, how to, even a self-defense component. And it's a interactive dialogue and really compelling. In some places like the Ministry of Education and Health and Sports in Cambodia has piloted Days for Girls as a national curriculum. So for this, and the monitoring evaluation is off the charts and amazing, and we're so excited about that. And this is grade by grade curriculum that will be given once a year, and has a component of interaction, activities, and then discussion and dialogue, an invitation for them to be ambassadors to share the healthy news in their community and with their families. And the transformation is tremendous. So we have multiple options available for us. This is about inviting the world to understand menstrual health and make it a priority to make sure everybody has what they need, and that we just break the stigma and misunderstanding and shame, because it's not just an embarrassment. It actually has dire health, sociological, and honestly economical impact on entire communities. And
Yeah.
this is something we can change in the world. This is absolutely something that can happen in our lifetime all around this globe.
Yeah. Do you include the men in the communities too for those educational portions of it? Because I feel
Absolutely.
can, make them more comfortable around it, then it'd be more comfortable for women too. Because yeah, every time I talk, like my husband's okay because he'll actually go to the store and buy products for me if I can't make it to the store, and he's just like, it doesn't matter to me. He's like, I've seen so much with you having our kids. He's like, it's a product. He's like, I'm not grossed out by it anymore. So I think just being around myself and my daughter long enough to know that it's just part of life. That's how it goes. It's made him more comfortable. So do you offer that opportunity for men in the community?
Absolutely. It's vital for everyone to get it. You're so right, because if half of us get it, then that doesn't break the cycle of stigma, right? But if we all understand that it connects us all, it's huge. In fact, in Malawi, we had a man that participated in that and was training to be conduct the education. He said afterwards, he went home to his wife and said, I didn't understand. I'm so sorry. And I will make sure you have the resources you need. And I just want you to know that you're important to our family. And I just didn't understand. And so she had objected to him coming to the training because he's gone a lot. He's a principal. And the next week he came and said, my wife actually said I have to come. So it's hugely transformative. And really it should be a conversation we all have. So definitely, we have a program called Men Who Know, and specifically offers an opportunity to dialogue about health and includes menstrual health as a primary piece.
That's really cool. We have a couple of comments. Kathy Taylor, she said those are intentional efforts and we should do a better job to further promote this work. Absolutely. That's why I wanted Celeste to come on to Maven. So hopefully this will get her a farther reach here in the United States, and we can start breaking down the stigma, because it still exists here. There's still people that are
Yes.
freaked out about periods, and I don't understand why. And then
Thank you, Kathy.
kudos to you, Celeste, for what you do for girls. And then Kathy has a couple more. Transparency enables everyone to connect, understand, and connect, and repeat and create change. So absolutely. And if anyone else has questions for Celeste, feel free to drop them in the comment section and I can get to them. But we're coming up. Well, actually, we're a little over time, but that's okay. But if you had one ask for our audience, Celeste, what would that be in terms of, how we can further help you in the mission for Days for Girls? Because I think this is super important. And I'm so glad that there's individuals like you that are actually bringing attention to this. Because again, it's natural. It's part of who women are. It's nothing to be afraid of. We're not aliens from another world or monsters. Like, it's okay that we have this. So what would your biggest ask of our audience be?
Talk about periods. We don't want to, but that's how we shatter the stigma, right? And if I may add another one, find Days for Girls, join up, help Days for Girls reach more, because this really is something we can do.
Yeah.
That's what I would ask.
Where can they find more information about Days for Girls, or how can they get in touch with you if they have any questions?
If you go to daysforgirls.org on even Google it, you'll find us. The website has so much information. There is a direct link to me on that website, and we have social media, which is really fun to interact with. Another way to help, and we have a podcast, so you can listen to Days for Girls podcast as well.
Do you have information on your website for volunteers who want to get more involved volunteer-wise?
100%. And there's so many good ways to volunteer for advocacy. There are chapters of Days for Girls where you actually can help make the product all over the world. There's fundraising teams you can be part of and create. So many ways to engage. And that's one of the lovely things. You can use your own two hands to change lives.
That's fantastic. I'm going to have to take a look at that myself, because I'm trying to get more involved with community things. And I think this is just super important. And I want to talk to my daughter about it as well too. We both have I can't remember the term for it and I should know it, but we both have it's not osteo. We have like a thinning line around our uterus. So anytime we get our period, we have really extreme pain and we're just miserable. So she's like, every time she would get hers, she would be embarrassed to talk about it, because she's like, Mom, I don't want to tell people why I don't feel good or why I need to go home, because I'm not like sick. I just can't function when I have migraines and I'm nauseous. And she's like, I feel so embarrassed, especially if it's my teacher's a man. She's like, I don't want to be like, I'm on my period, I gotta go home. So I'm gonna share this information with her too and get involved and do a mother-daughter thing with us. But Celeste, thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything else you'd like to mention before I let you go for the weekend?
Yes, I have a book coming out next fall. So
Okay.
Everybody stay tuned. It's the book about Days for Girls, and sharing that will help reach more girls too.
Super excited. We'll have to invite you back so that you can discuss that once it gets launched.
That would be wonderful.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you have a wonderful and safe weekend. Be sure to check out Days for Girls. And if you're able, volunteer your time or donate as much as possible, because this is a really important issue going around the world that I was not aware of until I met Celeste. So again, thank you, Celeste. Have a great weekend, everyone. And stay tuned for a message from our sponsor. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
We know hiring quality manufacturing talent isn't always easy, and that there can be a lot of moving parts. That's why Factory Fix is introducing a powerful new tool, Talent Text. No more candidate no-shows. Talent Text allows you to connect with candidates up to 5 times faster than you or even the best recruiter can. Job openings happen overnight. Candidates fall by the wayside and emails get buried and forgotten. Through 3-directional chat, Factory Fix Talent Pros help put you in the hand of a highly skilled worker within seconds. Find quality faster at factoryfix.com.